Hello and welcome, everyone. We've got a really great webinar going today. The very distinguished Dr. Shirley Dawson is joining us to come talk to us about some really, I think, what are quite exciting retention strategies. So Shirley, welcome. Say hi to everyone out in
Hello.
webinar land. And again, let's move on to the next slide. I want to remind everyone here that we have a chat feature here. So as you have questions, please put them here in the chat. It's enabled. And as you have questions arise, feel free to ask them. At the same time, want to remind everyone that Zoom has closed caption functionality. So if you look in your features on the bottom menu, you have what's called the live transcript. If you need closed captioning, feel free to enable that. So let's go to the next slide. Let's talk a little bit about the timing of this presentation today. We'll do a brief introduction and then we'll jump into the presentation. I've seen the deck. It is chock full of really great information. And the thing that I like about it is that it's not the same old stuff we've been hearing over and over about shortage and retention. Again, I believe Dr. Dawson is on the forefront of innovating new solutions in the areas of shortage and turnover. At the conclusion of the presentation, I think we're planning on give or take 40 minutes, but it could be a little shorter, could be a little longer. We'll conclude with some Q&A and discussion, and then we'll go from there. Before we jump into the presentation, I'm presuming that some of you are here for the first time, so we just wanted to let you know who we are. We are eLuma, and we are dedicated to helping students achieve their full potential. Heretofore, we've specifically focused on providing telehealth solutions for both mental health and special education. So we do online counseling, online therapy, we do speech therapy, occupational therapy, a whole list of things. And we've been around for about 10 years. We've got 300 plus team members, and we work all over the country. So, you know, if your school or your district or your program is ever in need of help, we stand ready and would love to help you and your students. If you like this webinar, or if you like what eLuma is and what we do, you can follow us on Twitter and Facebook as well. So next slide. We also have a special promotion going. If you'd like to learn how we can support you with any of these services, we have consultations ready and available, usually about 30 minutes. If you sign up today and you give the promo code eLuma Webinars, you'll get an Amazon gift card to use as you see fit. So let's jump into a little bit about this webinar series. This is part of the eLuma Special Education webinar series, and we have we've had a whole array of guests, and we've got many more coming. Certainly, we have Dr. Dawson today. Next week, we have Shauna Rader talking about MTSS and Tier 1. And going into November, we have Jonathan Reed, who is a very distinguished legal professor, and he will be talking about all of the latest developments in special education law. So if you'd like to register for upcoming webinars, you see the link there, just go with it. I want to give everyone a brief reminder too that we'll be sending the deck, the recording link, both for the audio recording and the video recording of this presentation, as well as a certificate of attendance. So let's talk a little bit about this webinar, and then let's jump to Dr. Dawson. I've known Shirley for a few years, and I can say not only is she one of the great minds in special education, but truly a kind and genuine and just awesome person. She's a professor locally here at Weber State University, but she's worked in several areas of education, working as a teacher, working in gifted and special education, and then transitioned to higher education. She's very knowledgeable and has published in a number of areas, and you'll see this today in her presentation. Obviously, she's very distinguished in the things that she's done. She's won awards, she's been published. I can't say enough things, but again, She's going to be very humble about it, so we'll keep it very, very minimal and light there. But last but not least, I want to acknowledge that probably her most critical role is one of being a wife, a mother, and a grandmother. I think I tip my hat to any person who can do all of those things and at the same time have such a successful career. So let's go to the next slide. We'll just talk a little bit about this presentation. We're going to talk about some unique solutions for teacher shortages, but also turnover. Sometimes we tend to lump them all together, but shortage is a thing, but turnover is also a big thing. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn this time over to Dr. Dawson. Thank you for joining us today, and we're excited for this presentation.
Well, thank you very much, George. I've known George for a while, and it's my pleasure and honor to be here. As George mentioned, I'm here to tell you about district and university partnerships and share some strategies that have worked for us as we have prepared educators who remain in the field. So as mentioned, my name is Shirley Dawson. I'm an associate professor at Weber State University. Weber is considered located in a rural area. Our enrollment is around 30,000 students, and we offer more than 225 degrees, of which teacher education is one and is in the top 10 of those degrees that we offer. Weber is rated 19th in the nation for affordable universities and has a student ratio of 21:1, our faculty to student ratio. And we have awarded financial aid to more than 13,000 students in the school year 2020 to 21. I tell you that information about Weber State because later on in the presentation it'll come up what it means to have be located in a rural area where we provide financial support and have a low faculty student ratio. So in my presentation, I kind of want to go over the who, what, where, why, how. One, Parent a Teacher program, where we prepare and retain teachers in the field. So let's just do a little introduction to give you a little bit more of the who. As George said, my name is Shirley Dawson, and that's me in the glasses and the big hat. And this is how I look lately whenever I go outside. I had eye surgery about a month ago, and the sun and light just seem so bright to me right now. So I'm always having a big hat and sunglasses on no matter where I go. And when I talked to the surgeon at the follow-up, I said, why is everything so bright? And he informed me that for a long time, my eyes had been hooded by my eyelids. So it was as if I was wearing a visor at all times. And now that visor is removed, and so more light is coming into my eyes. And I shared that with you as an analogy that I'm going to try to remove the hood or the visor so that we can see things a little bit differently and how we can address having teachers that we need in the classroom. So I first met and became acquainted with eLuma therapy around 2019 when I happened to be at the Council for Exceptional Children Special Education Legislative Summit in Washington, D.C., and George Dayton and Jeremy were present, and we met, as they are also from Utah and I am from Utah, and we met with the Utah congressional members. And since then, I've had the opportunity to meet with them almost annually at the Special Education Legislative Summit, as well as in other interactions. And when George asked if I would share information at one of eLuma's webinars, I was just thrilled because I so appreciate the professional connection that I have enjoyed and experienced, as I'm sure many of you feel the same way with eLuma over the years. So moving on to the purpose of the partnership program. It's not new news to anybody that there are widespread shortages in education. or that these shortages continue. I was finding it rather interesting. In 2016, there was an article out by Suture, Darling, Hammond, and Carver Thomas that warned of this coming crisis in education with teacher shortages, teacher retention, teacher recruitment. And then 6 years later, now we're in 2022, Rabora just published that we are on the brink. Now, we can fill in what we think we're on the brink. Rabora called this that we're the profession's on the brink. Are we on the brink of collapse? Are we on the brink of a systems change? Just what are we on the brink? But we've gone from a coming crisis to we are there. We are there with the educator shortage. This shortage was further underscored in spring of this year. There were hearings. This past spring, the congressional hearings were before the House Appropriations Subcommittee on Labor, Health, Human Services, Education, and Related Services, and testimony was given at these hearings that annually, almost 300,000 teachers leave the field. This attrition is nearly double that of other professional fields. The number of future teacher candidates dropped 35% between 2009 and 2014. And from my experiences in higher education, that continues to drop. Every year we see fewer and fewer candidates enrolling in teacher prep courses. 98% of all school districts reported special education shortages in the school year 2020 to 2021. The proportion of uncertified teachers increased by 50% from 2014 to 2016, and it's still growing. However, in states that have more teacher prep programs, there was less of a shortage of teachers. And so this is where I'm going to focus some of my information here as on how can we improve teacher prep programs to help reduce the shortage of teachers who are entering the field, but also what is there about a teacher prep program that encourages teachers to stay in the field? And that's where I'm going to be focusing a lot of my information. So Randy Weingarten, who is the president of the American Federation of Teachers, gave this information during her testimony to the House of Representatives subcommittee. And she said that when we're looking at attrition, 30% of all teachers are leaving the field, which I'm sure you're aware of, within the first 5 years, as compared to 16% of engineers or 19% of nurses and lawyers. So our field has this attrition. How do we retain the teachers that we work so hard to prepare? So with this background information, the purpose then is to prepare certified, excellent, skilled teachers who want to work in area schools and remain teaching. It's not just enough to prepare them, but to remain. And so it's obvious that we need to keep those teachers that we are preparing. So I want to tell you about a program that does just this. And the program I'm familiar with is the Teacher Assistant Pathway to Teaching program, or the TAPT program at Weber State University. It was created in 1996 at the request of 6 superintendents of area school districts. The partnership between districts and the university supports employed paraeducators or other school employees to become fully licensed teachers who will then work in the district. And we know it works based on the graduation and retention rate. And I'm doing data again, but every time I pull the data, it's the same. In this program, 96% of all TAP participants since 1996 who have graduated and received a teaching license are still teaching. So when we look at that, the rates of 30% leaving the field, the TAP program has a 4% attrition rate. Some years, and sometimes it's 100%. We have no one who leaves the field after 5 years. But overall, since 1996, we have a 96% graduation rate, completion rate, and retention in the field, which I personally think is phenomenal. So when I say it works, the data says, yes, it works. So in my book, it's a phenomenal success, and that's why I wanted to share this information. And I think that's why George asked me to share this information as well. So the TAPT program at Weber State University is a unique program that provides paraeducators, also known as teacher assistants, the financial support and mentoring needed to become fully licensed teachers. The purpose of the TAP program is to provide a path for special education, early childhood, secondary, elementary, secondary, or ESL, or bilingual employed teaching assistants or other employed personnel in the districts to become highly qualified teachers in area schools. New applicants are added each year as funding is available, and the program exists through the continued generosity of public and private donors. It began at the bequest of school districts, and we've continued it with the support. We're going to go to the website here online. So George, will you let me make sure that it switched over to the website?
Indeed.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So here's the website. And if anybody wants more information, you're welcome to go to the website. And I'm really hoping now that as we watch this clip from the website, it's going to come through. So I'm hoping I've got all of my screen sharing capabilities going so that it will all share the sound. And if not, George, will you let me know, and I will stop and redo my settings to make sure the sound comes through.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
For me, the teacher assistant pathway to teaching is a gift straight from heaven. The program enabled me to go back to school after having been in school for 25 years and to get my degree and teach, which has always been my dream. I am where I am right now in this position because of the TAPT program.
In 1994, the Dean of the College of Education at that time, Dr. David Green, met with some faculty from teacher education and local school district superintendents. They wanted a way to help their skilled and committed teacher assistants become licensed teachers. And together they created the TAPT program, which is the Teacher Assistant Pathway to Teaching. I see the impact that the TAPT has had not only on Ogden School District, but Weber School District, Davis School District. It's produced some of the finest educators that I can think of. I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Schools for Ogden School District. So while I'm not currently in the classroom teaching, which I do miss, and I try and get out to classrooms as often as possible, the TAP program really did help solidify a foundation of what the core principles of education are.
My life has been impacted by education tremendously. I do a lot of work in the community for the university, but also in general. I founded a local Hispanic advocacy organization. I'm also a member of the Ogden City Council. The TAP program, the training that I received in teaching and being a teacher, I carry that everywhere I go.
I think it's support. I think the TAP program, I was a student going to school and also had a job as an aide in school and want to become a teacher, become an educator. You never know the impact that teachers can make in the lives of so many people.
I didn't even know I wanted to teach until I heard about the TAP program and what it offered. It just put me on a path, and then I realized I actually liked where it was taking me. I am the instructional coach here at Polk Elementary. I'm in the position that I'm in because I was well trained. I had a network of people that I could go to for mentors. I'm really glad that I stayed in education and stuck it out because I wouldn't change it.
TAPT graduates demonstrate remarkable staying power once they are in the field. Compared to the state average of 56% of new teachers remaining in education after 8 years, over 96% of TAPT graduates are still in the field as teachers or administrators. The TAPT program is an investment in our community's future, and donations keep this program alive.
Every time I find myself talking about where I come from and the things that have impacted my life, I always mention TAPT.
In my letter that I would write every year, thanking the donor, whoever it was, I would tell them, you have no idea how much this has meant to our family. I always wrote, I would wrap my arms around you and hug you and thank you, because it was something I couldn't do for myself.
So I'm going to put this back up on our screen. So that just gives you a little background about the TAPT. But now I want to talk to you about what makes the program, what makes it successful, and what you can do in partnerships to duplicate this success wherever you are at, and with what you have at your disposal using your resources. So TAPT is based on this partnership, and as mentioned, the TAPT program uses mentoring and support to provide it to candidates that helps them not only get their initial teaching license, but to stay in the field. Our cohort size is usually around 40, but because we are dependent on funding every year to keep the program going, that number has fluctuated. During the economic recession during 2008 and 2011, numbers went down to less than 10 due to severe drops in both public and private funding. But usually our cohort size is around 40, and we use, as I said, funding from private and public resources, as well as other supports and mentoring to ensure the success of participants in the program. So I talk a little bit now about this partnership, where the partnership comes from, and how this partnership works. So as mentioned, that the catalyst for the program were school districts. This really is a homegrown venture. It was school districts who came and said, we need teachers. We need to work together with the university. How can we do this? So area school superintendents around the university approached the college and voiced the critical need for teachers who would remain in the area. As I mentioned, I said it's a rural area, who would remain in the area even after they graduated and had their jobs. So the school districts created a consortium with one district member who would be on the TAPT program board of directors, serve as a representative and sit on the board of directors. Initially, the need was for bilingual certified teachers, but then that has been expanded to bilingual elementary, secondary, early, special education, all educators, because we need all educators prepared, and we need all educators who will remain. The funding from the program comes from private and public donors, grants and awards, and participants are awarded $4,000 annually for their tuition. Some of our students, our participants, start as part-time and they're working full-time, and then they gradually transition to going to school full-time and working part-time. The schools in the partnership provide mentoring, They provide tutoring because schools have the best tutors available, teachers who participants are working with every day, and provide what's really important is flexibility in the work schedules for the employee, so that the employee has flexibility of their work schedule in taking classes as well as remain employed in the schools. They have flexibility in the location and the timing of their classes. And then the university provides advising, tutoring, and academic supports such as library materials or textbooks and student services and a cohort group. The schools recommend the employees for the program, and then the university interviews and works with those employees to determine who's the best fit for the program. The cohort mentoring that's provided by the TAP program through the university is just as valuable, that participants say, as is the financial support. As Angie stated, being in the TAP program is about more than just receiving help with our tuition. It is wonderful for all of us students to be able to bounce ideas off of each other, since we are all working and pursuing our education together. And I think the mentoring the cohort is one of those key factors that makes the program such a success, as well as a key factor that makes retention of teachers such a success. Our teachers, our new teachers, our preparing teachers, our experienced teachers need to feel they're part of something. They need to have someone that they can bounce ideas off of and work together. And so I think Angie said this very well on that. There's two critical components, the financial piece, as well as the mentoring and the cohort piece. To implement a program like TAPT in your situation, I have some key considerations I think that would be helpful for you. First, the way the program works is that the university needs to have funding, and then inform the districts of what's available and the openings that are for the employees. So each year as funding becomes available, and I'll talk a little bit more about where you can look for funding, announcements are made to the district representatives for the TAP program about when we're going to be accepting participants, when the enrollment period is. And districts have discretion in how they disseminate this information regarding availability and openings. So each district can decide which works best for them to disseminate the information that there are openings available in the TAP program and how to apply. Currently, TAP admits a new participant for each graduate to maintain that enrollment about 40. If the funding increases, then our number will increase. The university has capacity for up to 100 participants. We're only limited by funding. So as we get more funding, we can accept more participants. If our funding diminishes, then we don't have as many openings. Second, the eligible candidates complete the applications. And it's up to the district to determine which of their employees are eligible. The university creates the application, and the district then disseminates the applications and reviews the applications as well. The district determination is made according to which applicants they're willing to support through mentoring, through tutoring, and working with their schedules. After the district has forwarded the applicants to the university interviews applicants to interview for fit. And the university determination of which applicants will fit with the program that year is based on factors such as what are donor stipulations for the funding? Do we have representation from all districts, representation for all fields of teacher certification? Then finally, admittance into the program is made by the university for meeting university requirements and by the district for meeting district requirements for employment. So the final determination is made jointly between districts and the universities. So the funding, as you can imagine, becomes one of the most critical components. So the funding sources for TAP come from 3 entities. First are private funding sources. These are individuals and private donors. So our donations come anywhere between just a few dollars from individuals to large endowments from corporations or from individuals. On the TAP webpage, we have a little button that says donate, and people who find out about the program, they can donate. And it's over half of our donations are from people who donate less than $20, just because they see the impact. But then, you know, we also have endowments as well. So a key component is the private sector. Next is the public. And public funding includes both federal and state grants and awards. Having a clearly defined partnership between districts and universities really helps with the grant proposal and the award process, because the funders, the grants, the awardees, they can see that this partnership is in place, that it's strong, and that it works. And lastly is coming through the university. And the university provides both fiscal and non-fiscal support. So the development office at the university is charged with raising and maintaining financial support for Weber State programs, including the TAP program. But then non-fiscal support provided by the university includes such things as student health services, including mental health services, library access, computer access, food bank access, tutoring, lab facilities, bus passes, transportation, and more. So the funding for TAP comes through these 3 main streams. As financial piece is often the most problematic, here's a chart of the cost for the last 5 years. We're just completing figures for 2022, so the amounts are projected at this time. The tuition amount for each participant is $4,000 a year. Participants often start part-time because they're working full-time, and then they transition to full-time students who are working part-time. So the budget costs includes program staff salaries, university supports that I listed before, and such, whereas tuition is just that tuition expense for students. Participants and costs would be any tuition above $4,000 a year. And that's why I was at the beginning, remember I said Weber State is one of the most affordable in the nation. So our tuition costs really are affordable for students. So the $4,000 goes a long way for our students. And other student costs could be any special fees or textbooks that aren't covered by the TAP program. Whether students are in the TAP program or not, they all have access to the university supports and can apply for additional financial aid through federal or other state programs. The criteria for participation in TAP is a partnership. And so the districts recommend and support their candidates. The university accepts those who meet the criteria and who can be accepted to the university. And those students must register for licensure degree coursework. And the program requires that participants maintain a 3.0 GPA, because the state requires that for teaching certification. And also that participants attend monthly meetings where district personnel are also invited, and to pay any costs that aren't covered by the program. So what are some key takeaways for you to go and start implementing a program like this in your schools or in your districts? First, remember that TAPT has this proven 26-year record. Our graduation rate is 96%. Our retention rate is 96%. On average, it takes 3.3 years to complete the program, which when we're talking about the program, that means your teaching certificate and a bachelor's degree. There is in the program an opportunity for work experience as part of your getting your bachelor degree. The average cost is $3,432.08 per participant. TAPT awards up to $4,000, but because some participants are going part-time, it lowers the average amount. Some participants use all $4,000, others may not if they're starting out part-time. The partnership is what makes the program so successful. Graduates list the collaborative support between each other, their districts, and the university as the top factor in the program's success, which relates to retention in the field. This collaboration needs to be there to stay in the field. Part of this collaboration is mentoring and support. The mentoring needs to be provided at both the district and at the university. Mentoring for how to be a teacher and how to be a student at the university. Mentoring and support in academic, which is the tutoring, social, the cohort aspect, having a friend, having somebody who's going through the experience just like you, the professional mentoring, what it means to be a professional, how to balance that work and life relationship, and financial, paying for school and life while you're in college. Many of our graduates retain their mentoring cohorts even after graduation. And I think this mentoring cohort that continues after graduation helps explain why the retention and the rate is so high at 96%. Monthly meetings are required as part of the program. Participants are required to meet 6 times a year or 3 times each semester. And in this mentoring, this is where the monthly meetings, this is where the mentoring occurs. The mentoring in academic, social, professional, and financial. All of that support happens at the monthly meetings. At first, people aren't so sure they want to meet an extra meeting, an extra class, an extra time commitment, but they all then look back and say it was the most valuable part of the program. So looking then at the employing side, at the retention, is there a time when your teachers can meet to have that cohort, to have that mentoring experience in academic, social, professional, and financial situations to help them figure out with others just like them how to make it work? So how to get started? My first suggestion is, what partnerships do you currently have? Who are your partners? TAP started with districts going to the university. So look at those current partnerships you have or any new partnerships that you would like to develop and get those partnerships going. I have another program that I'm involved in, and it all started because a district approached me. So when you are in the field, please remember just how valuable and powerful you are when you approach universities and say, I have this idea, I need some help, because that's where there are so many opportunities for this collaborative approach. So look at your partnerships. What partnerships are existing and what partnerships are new? I was just talking with George before we started, and I enjoy my partnerships with eLuma. So remember to reach out to your partnerships that extend beyond educational partnerships. Where else do you have partnerships? With workforce services, with voc rehab, with other businesses? Where are your partnerships? Then what do you need to prepare future teachers, or what do you need to retain current teachers? What do you need? Do you need funding? Do you need mentors? Do you need space? What is it that you need? Make a list of things that you need. TAP started because districts realized they needed bilingual teachers. And that's how it started. So how can you define what is it that you need? And the next one is, what do you have available? What are your strengths? What do you have available to prepare excellent teachers? What do you have available to retain excellent teachers? You have experienced staff in your schools. You have experienced faculty in your schools. You have classrooms available. You have funding, perhaps through the COVID funding to help improve student outcomes. So you have access to some new funding. Do you have students that future teachers can work with? Do you have students that current teachers can work with? What are your strengths, as well as what is it that you need? As you make a list of your partnerships, your needs, and your strengths, you'll begin to see that you are in a good position to either increase the number of teachers you have or retain the teachers you have. So then start working on those partnerships to build your programs. At Weber State, we offer stackable programs for educators, from para-educators to master's programs. And each of these programs is built on this partnership model. What is it that we need? Who are our partners? What are our strengths? So that we can prepare people from certificates to become certified paraeducators, to become credentialed teachers with a bachelor's degree, or those students who have a bachelor's degree but are looking for a master's degree with or without a teaching credential. So each of these partnerships was built based on universities and districts working together. And you can learn more about each of those on the Weber website. Our TAP team is myself, the program director, and then Dr. Dan Hubler is the Packer Center director. And the Packer Center at Weber State University in the College of Education is the center that's charged with helping bring all the funding resources together for the TAP team, as well as Nathan Bingham, who is our administrative specialist. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you for being an educator, and thank you for wanting to improve the field of education for our teachers and our students. And I will turn the time over to George, who will help us out with any questions and answers that we may have.
Yeah, that was really awesome, Shirley. And I want to remind everyone that's been attending. Please put your questions here in the chat. I actually have several questions in line with this too. I started to geek out a little bit as I started to look at your retention rate and the numbers of basically adding 40 educators to the local pool every year. And I went through a nerdy little exercise. I got my pen and my calculator out, and I started to just extrapolate. And I thought, okay, so when we look at the picture nationally of the shortages, and you know, here at eLuma, we're generally focused on special education. Obviously, we're expanding and getting into mental health, you know, beyond special ed. But just looking at the national shortages for special education, there's no hard or reliable data, but I have seen estimates of teacher shortages in excess of 50,000 special education teachers a year. So let's just look at that. You can go down the list. You can look at school psychologists, which is about 15,000. You can look at shortages for speech paths, which is 10 to 15,000. But let's just look at the shortage of 50,000 special education teachers. And I think that's probably a fairly reliable number, although you did allude in your presentation to the 50% increase in uncertified teachers. So we don't have a hard number because the shortages aren't always reported. But if you're adding 40 teachers to the pool here in Utah every year, what would that look like? If we just proportionally extrapolated that number to a national number, Utah has 3.15 million citizens compared to a 330 million US population. So if we extrapolate, just proportionally grew this to a national program, that would add 4,166 teachers, special education teachers to the pool every year. And according to my very primitive calculations, within 12 years, with the low retention of a program like this, we'd be looking at greatly reducing, if not eliminating, the teacher shortage program. And that's at this level. And so my question in line with this is, where is this going? And do you have any plans for future growth? Do you have any plans for partnering with other universities in state and beyond? Because it seems to me, Shirley, you're really on to something here. I love this model. And so I'd love to kind of pick your brain, because I think that there is some tremendous potential there.
Thank you, George. I'll do my best to answer it. First, let me just say that we don't graduate 40 every year. That's our cohort, and it takes an average of 3 1/3 years to graduate. So there's always a continual, people are graduating, people are coming in, and the number that we accept depends on how many are graduating. And our graduating numbers can be as high as 17 a year or as low as 3. So there is this fluctuation.
Okay.
But when
I did see that in your presentation, you had a 96%, not just retention rate, but graduation rate.
Yes. Yes, right. So, but when we look at the number of total graduates we've had over the program, and if we take each of those and the number of graduates times 30, which is an average class size here in Utah, we could, do 20 for other states, but around 30 here in Utah, we get to at least 60,000 students are taught annually by a TAPT graduate. And so over the 20 years that we've had the program, you can do out the math, how many students are graduating, and that number continues every year. How many students are being taught by a TAPT graduate as we increase it, the number of teachers graduating. The success of the TAPT program has caught the attention of the Utah State Legislature, because they see what we're doing. As was mentioned, the retention rate statewide is about 52%, and TAPT is at 96%. So the state legislature saw this and wanted to duplicate it. And this past year, the legislature passed funding for the Grow Your Own Educator program. So now this model is available to be duplicated throughout the state of Utah with funding that just came down from the state legislature. I'm hoping that it will continue. So we're starting to see the model now grow to other universities in the state and past the districts that are served by Weber State. So it's out there, the growth's out there, it's getting noticed, and people want to see the success continue.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to be a fly on the wall. If you were to have a conversation with Lori Vanderplug over at the CEC, I know that this is an area of passion for her. Have you had any discussion with her along the way? Because I know the CEC is actively looking for new kinds of solutions to not just address shortage, but also to address this retention turnover problem.
Yes, I have. So I've actually had conversations with a few folks, in CEC, in the teacher education division, in CEC at large as well. And besides the TAP program having such a phenomenal success, I've also noticed that if I can get pre-service educators to attend a professional conference such as CEC's annual convention, that we have they also have around a 97% retention rate in the field at 5 years. So partnering, see the different aspects, the mentoring, the financial support, the professional development, all seems to come together that helps improve our retention of excellent teachers once they get into the field. I'm just going to be going to CEC TED here in a few weeks, and so I'll be speaking with Brennan and other folks in CEC because they want to know the latest results as well.
Yeah, it seems to me like you're really, really on to something here. And
then I also do work with the Cedar Center out of Florida with the
University
of Florida. Yeah, University of Florida. I work with them as well.
Yeah, I think that this is something that could be taken, and it's a reproducible model. I mean, it's not a rocket science kind of formula that you've got going here. I think that there's a certain beauty in the simplicity of what you've come up with here. But the most telling thing are those numbers that, the 96% graduation rate, the 96% retention rate, never mind the low cost of the model and the timeline. I mean, we've got a lot of people that have thrown their hands up in the air with regards to this problem and just kind of given up. But to me, this is a problem where within a matter of a decade, we could make a sizable dent into some of these vast numbers. So to me, this is a really exciting thing. I want to remind everyone out there that we're in the Q&A portion of this presentation. If any of you have specific questions for this, please put them here in the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to keep firing at you, Shirley.
Okay, and then one other thing going on the future growth, what we saw from this is that we were drawing upon our pool of para-educators to become teachers. But what if that spigot dries up? You need to keep having paras. And so that's where the stackable program came up with. Now, the stackable program impetus was in preparing para-educators as well, because we not only need teachers, we also need para-educators, and we need para-educators who want to remain para-educators. So the program now is expanded beyond just para to teacher, but preparing paras as well, working with districts in that partnership.
That's an interesting point, and I'm a little less familiar. Might even claim ignorance to some of the para shortage data. Is it equally difficult to fill the para jobs? What does that look like?
I guess there could be arguments made that it's more difficult to fulfill a para job because it's part-time, which often means that it's without benefits, and the pay rate is usually very low. Here in Utah, we're talking between $10 to $15 an hour.
Yeah, I never love it when we go into the Utah pay data.
That's right, but the data is low nationwide, and limited hours, limited benefits, and low pay.
So again, not that we want to continually be calling for more money, but it makes sense in that vein that we're going to have to keep asking for more money from both the federal and the state governments.
Well, but it's also then providing the training for paraeducators so they're successful in their job and they want to stay.
And I guess that's what brings us back to this model right here, where to me, it seems like this model could be applied in a number of ways, above and beyond just the para to teacher model. But it seems to me like, in multiple domains, even within special education, we could take this model and replicate it and do it. I can't say enough good things. And you kind of touched on this in your conclusion of the presentation, but what advice would you have for a SPED director that you know, that has some ambitions to do something above and beyond, what would you say to them? You know, where do they begin? It seems like it could be an overwhelming thing. I mean, do they contact a local university? Where do they go with this? What would you say to a SPED director?
I would say for a SPED director to look at what existing partnerships they have, what is it they need, and what do they have available, and then reach out to those partnerships. This is what I need. This is what we have available. How can we work together? And it's, you know, sometimes schools think, oh, I don't have much. Oh, you know, maybe I don't have a lot available. You do. You have a workforce that could, you know, use training. You have resources where future teachers could improve their training, improve their skills. You have access to so many mentors who have experiences and expertise. So what is it that you need? What do you have? And where are your partnerships? Or what partnerships would you like to increase?
And you mentioned that you started this in, I believe, 1996.
Yeah, so in 1994 is when.
Oh, 94, sorry.
Well, no, it's so you'll see that the dates 94, 95, and 96 have all been used. 94 is when the districts got together and said, we have a problem. 95 is when they contacted the university. 96 is when the program started.
So, I mean, it's not like it's just, there is some type of monumental effort and monumental amount of time needs to take place within a matter of a year or a couple of years. A district can go from identifying a problem and a solution to actually getting something up and running.
Yeah, and not even a solution, identifying a problem and looking for a partner to getting a solution within a year or so. And you know, your need can be small, just like it was with TAP. We need more bilingual teachers. Your need could be small. We need more trained special education assistants. We need more special education teachers in the pipeline. You know, we need more future special education student teachers in our school. You know, maybe a district would just like to have more student teachers in their schools. Well, you know, what is it that you need? Identify what your need is. What do you have available, and where are your partnerships?
I love this. I love, to me, it just seems like, again, this is I wouldn't even call it a grassroots way, but potentially it's a way that we can solve the problem locally. I think nationally too, if we replicate these models, we can do it. So we're about at time. I have a couple of more announcements, but I do want to say this before we move on. I've put Dr. Dawson's email address in the chat. For those of you who are interested in learning more, I would encourage you to reach out. I know you're on sabbatical and I want to be sensitive to your time.
I was just, if you reach out to me and you get an automatic message that says I'm on sabbatical, don't worry, I will respond to you. I will get back to you.
But at the same time, I see you as being on the forefront of solving some really critical problems. Early in your presentation, you did reference the crisis that we're on the brink. We are on the brink, and so again, I would prevail upon you to reach out to Dr. Dawson. So just a couple of announcements before we go. If we could go to the next slide. We've got a webinar next week. We've got Shauna Rader Kelly, who is going to be talking about Tier 1. This is a webinar that should not be missed for special education administrators, for administrators in general, who are trying to figure out how to take care of the needs of the general student populace. And so we're gonna dive into Tier 1 of MTSS. You don't want to miss that. It's going to be part of the Office Hours with Dr. John Kelly series. And then recently we had Jonathan Reed agree to join us for a webinar in November. He's going to be going over special education law, specifically where we're at. You know, we've been in this continual state of upheaval the last couple of years. There's lots going on with special education law. He's one of the top legal experts on special education law in California, so you're not going to want to miss that one either. Go to the next slide. Want to remind everyone, schedule a 30-minute demo with us today. Get no obligation, get your Amazon gift card. Just use the promo code eLuma webinars. That's at eLuma.com/consultation/. So want to remind everyone of that promotion. And then we just want to thank you. But first and foremost, we want to thank you, Dr. Dawson. I look forward to seeing you in Louisville at the next CEC conference and also Washington, D.C. If you'd like to learn more about eLuma, what we're doing, or you just you liked this webinar and want to check into more, go to eLuma.com/webinars or follow us at eLuma Therapy on Twitter. Thank you, everyone, and have a fabulous Wednesday.